Hello, Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode. My name's Sean Wasserkrug. Thanks for sticking around. It's been a while. As you can see, we've relocated. I got a new set. Took a little while to get it set up and ready to go, but we are back, hopefully running on a normal schedule again with me and Brian. Weekly Crusaders probably won't be continuing for the rest of the year, but Brian and I will definitely be back with more stuff. But today we are reviewing a movie that came out last week, and that is Five Nights at Freddy's, which is available in theaters and on Peacock. For people who don't know Five Nights at Freddy's, it is a very popular independent game. Basically, for anyone who doesn't know the premise of that, it's for anyone who was a child growing up like myself. We would always go to a place like Chuck E. Cheese where they had the animatronic mice and stuff like that. Five Nights at Freddy's is basically that. It's a horror game based on a rundown pizza joint called Freddy Fazbear's, and the animatronics have come to life and basically are attacking and killing the security guards, and they keep having to hire new ones in place, which leads us to our lead character, Mike, played by Josh Hutcherson, who desperately needs the job to work because of a situation with his younger sister and custody and stuff like that. But every night he goes there, he knows there's a little bit something new, stranger happening every night. That's as bare bones as I'm going to give you in terms of a plot, because I don't want to go too far into it for people who don't know the game or the story of Five Nights at Freddy's. The premise alone for this movie should be a knockout of the park. You have a horror aspect kind of film with killer animatronics. Right there should sell butts and seats. Plus you add the cult following through the game. For anyone who wasn't a fan of the game, that premise alone should get butts in the seats, and it has, because the box office has been really good, even in spite of it being free on Peacock. For me, I am not I'm not going to say I'm not a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's. I was well aware of the game before the movie came out, and I was actually excited to see it because of the premise of killer animatronics. But I have never played the games, nor do I know the lore or anything like that. So for anyone who's coming at me going, oh, well, you're not a fan of the game, I'm a fan of the premise of it. I just never played the game itself. So this is based off of a review of just the movie as what it is, not off of the game series or the story or the lore or anything like that. Like I said, on paper, this movie should work fantastic. The problem is that it doesn't. Positives right off the bat. The animatronics in the movie. Freddy, I'm not remembering what the bunny's name, I think it's Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, the Cupcake, whatever the heck that one's name is. They look fantastic. They look great. They are definitely the stars of this movie. And when they are front and center, they look amazing. Whereas more times than not, when you get certain horror films with the creatures, stuff like that, you want to see as little of them as possible, because eventually you can start nitpicking and pointing stuff out that's flawed, whether it's bad CGI or special effects, stuff like that. That's not the case here with Five Nights at Freddy's. The animatronics look fantastic. They move well on screen. They look scary on screen, or they should look scary on screen. So that's probably the biggest thing, that if anyone is worried about how they're going to, portray themselves from video game to movie, that is the one thing you do not have to worry about. The problem with the film is the nonsensical plot, the wooden script writing, thus the wooden performances of all the characters in the film, or all the actors in the film, except for maybe Matthew Lillard, and just the plot holes of many in this film. I feel, and I've talked to a few people already who are fans of the game, who have played the game, who know the lore and stuff like that. And when I've kind of talked to them about my issues with the movie and stuff like that, they always give me the same response, which is, this movie was made for the fans. And I kind of hate that reference. I hate that statement, because that is a cop-out. Because that's your way of saying, well, you just don't get it because you're not a fan of the series. And that's BS, because the whole thing for this movie, or any movies in general, is that if this movie is made just for the fans, you're not going to make the money you want for Hollywood to want to make more said films. If you are making a movie that has a strong following, like Five Nights at Freddy's does, you still need to make the movie profitable and enjoyable for anyone who has not read the 9+ hours of lore that goes into this story. Because that's how you generate more fans. That's how you generate people to have never played the game to want to buy said game, who want to read the books, who wants to watch more films of this franchise. So by making it just for the fans, you are locking yourself in this tight little bubble for only the people who have put that time and effort into those. That's why the MCU is so good. That's why Lord of the Rings was so popular, and Harry Potter is because, yes, it was a book that has a strong fan base, but anyone who had never picked up a book from the Harry Potters or the Lord of the Rings or a comic book from the MCU was able to grab onto these characters, fall in love with these characters, and want to see these characters grow and move from movie to movie. Five Nights at Freddy's does not do that. Five Nights at Freddy's really stuck to the PG-13 of it, which you can make a good horror movie for PG-13. I'm not going to knock it for not being rated R, even though I do think that they could have done a lot more with a rated R, rating to it, except for the PG-13. But the problem is that while the animatronics look fantastic, never in this movie did you feel scared like you would in the elements of the game. There's never a moment, there's maybe one scene in this entire film that you actually feel like, oh crap, this actually does feel like the game, this is actually kind of creepy. But then they do something in the movie that kind of neuters that to a point, that kind of takes the scary stigma of the animatronics off the page, which I think was at a disservice. And it's all for this story of the main character, Mike, that really is at the heart of this, is what ruins this movie. There's the character Mike, he had this trauma thing happen to him and his little brother when they were kids, and thus he keeps going back into his dreams to try to find clues and stuff like that. Now, the problem with that is that we go back and replay the same damn dream 5 to 6 times. Once was enough, twice you're pushing it, 3 times, I don't care anymore. And that's the main problem with this, is that they are forcing this story of Mike and his sister and this custody battle with their aunt, who's overtly played by Mary Stuart Masterson. And all you want to do is just see the killer animatronics. And they're so few and far between that you just start to get frustrated and annoyed as the movie grows, because I watched it on Peacock, but people didn't pay to watch this movie, to watch a story about a guy who keeps falling asleep on the job. First off, he's a horrible security guy. To watch the same dream over and over and over and over again. No one gives a crap about this story about Mike and his long-lost brother. They just want to see Freddy and the other animatronics wreak havoc and cause mayhem. And the problem, and that's why I don't blame the creator, who actually partially had, script credit to this. I think he wrote probably a good Five Nights at Freddy's in this movie. But there's 2 other screenwriters, Hollywood screenwriters, who probably came in to Hollywood it up. I'm hoping that's the case, because if the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's wrote this particular script, he did his own creation a disservice, because he neutered his own franchise. He neutered his own characters that people love and want to see do all this fun stuff, by making them not feel as scary or as creepy to a certain point. And I'm loosely going around it because I don't want to spoil things that happen in the movie for people who have not seen it. But by doing certain elements, especially with the Abby character, the sister of Josh Hutcherson, you kind of take away what makes Five Nights at Freddy's Five Nights at Freddy's. And the only reason I know that is because of talking with fans of Five Nights at Freddy's, and also seeing, clips of it and stuff on YouTube and stuff like that. It is a very scary game, especially if you play it in virtual reality. My girlfriend's kid, he can't even play the VR because it's so scary. But you never feel that way while watching this movie, and that right there is a big failure. Like I said, the performances, Josh Hutcherson, he literally is sleepwalking through this movie, verbatim. I like Josh, but he's not a likable character. And that's another big issue with horror films, if you want to call this a horror movie, is that you have to like the protagonist, because if you don't, where's the motivation to care if they survive or make it through the end or defeat the monster at the end of the movie? And you just don't care. Yes, you like Abby because she's a little kid, but the Abby character is a plot device throughout the movie for Mike. And while Piper Rubio, who plays Abby, does a solid job in her performance, her writing isn't necessarily that strong, so she is kind of handcuffed to a poorly written script. Elizabeth Lail plays Vanessa, who is the cop or the exposition character of the film, but her explanations are so frustratingly vague intentionally that you just don't like her character. Not to mention she's the worst freaking cop I've ever seen because she never actually does her job. She just hangs out at Five Nights at Freddy's, which makes me wonder if she actually was a cop, but she does have the uniform and the car and all that kind of stuff. But and Elizabeth Lail, I've seen her in things that I actually like her in, but she is frustratingly annoying and bad in this movie. Like I said, Matthew Lillard, he plays Steve Reglan, who's the guy who gives Mike the job. I love Matthew Lillard. He does the best he can with the script that's given to him, which is very bare bones. But when Matthew Lillard's on screen, you do have that hint of, this is fun, but he's only in like 3 scenes in the movie. So you only get those moments here and far between. Bottom line is, Five Nights at Freddy's is not a good movie. It's not a bad movie. It's a frustrating movie because there is a really good movie in there. You're just not watching that movie. And that's the frustrating part of Five Nights at Freddy's, is that you could have, with screen rewrites or just moving some scenes around in different order based on how the film went, could have made this movie exponentially better. And that's the frustrating part of it. Now, if they do make a sequel, will I watch it? Yes, I will. I'll check it out because I want to see if they improve upon what they did in this film. But if someone comes up to me and says, Sean, would you recommend Five Nights at Freddy's? I've never played the game. I've never watched it. Would you recommend it? My answer would be no, because I don't think this movie does a good job of trying to create new fans to this franchise or try to draw people in to want to learn more, other than just leaving a whole lot of questions that weren't answered, to the point where I had to have a 2-hour discussion with people who were fans of Five Nights at Freddy's, trying to explain why this happened or how this happens, or please explain to me why XYZ happens, because that was not explained in the movie. And they really couldn't explain it either, which, once again, is a failed attempt at a bad script, and it also falls on the director for not doing a good job of explaining these things for non-fans of the film. Because when I even asked fans of Five Nights at Freddy's, they couldn't even give me a good enough answer to explain it. And if they can't give me a good enough answer, then there's a problem there. You have to have a good explanation for why this happens, except for just because. Just because is a lazy attempt for, we didn't think this well thought out, and oh well, people are too dumb to think it. Well, people aren't dumb, people are smarter now, and you need to figure that stuff out, because people love to ask questions, especially in a day and age where there's people like me who review this and break movies down and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like Five Nights at Freddy's was an attempt at something good. It was not well thought out. It was not executed. While it looks good when the animatronics are on screen, that is the only reason to check this movie out. The acting, the story, everything around it is just well below the bar. So for me, I'm going to give Five Nights at Freddy's a 38%. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, you have to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Like I said, outside of me, getting a new location and shooting in a new area and getting everything set up and ready to go, real reason why there hasn't really been any videos, there hasn't really been any good movies out lately. There hasn't been any movies worth talking about or even remotely wanting to shoot videos for. Doesn't mean I haven't watched any movies lately. Totally Killer on Prime came out a couple weeks back. It was fine. It wasn't... It was average at best, which wasn't really worthy of a video for you guys. But we are now in November. We are now hitting the holiday season. There are plenty of films on the way that are coming out that I can't wait to shoot videos for and talk to you guys about, to get you guys set up for the rest of the movie season. Like I said, Brian and I will be back to shoot some shows as well. I don't know what they're going to be yet. But as soon as we get Brian back on here, we will be back shooting stuff. It won't be Weekly Crusaders, but it will be something fun and exciting. Coming out, I know Quiz Lady on Hulu just came out. I actually was intrigued by the trailer for that, so if I watch that and it looks, something worth talking about, I'll be on to talk about that. Next week, we've got The Killer, which I think is going to be released in theaters, not on Netflix, or it might be on Netflix. We definitely will have a review for that when I can watch it. That's a movie that Brian has been hugely anticipating, so we might have Brian on the show for that one. Also, not Captain Marvel, The Marvels also comes out next week as well, so we will definitely have a review for that also. Now that we got the new setup going and everything, we'll be back running at a normal pace again. Thank you guys for sticking with me and waiting so patiently for the new videos to come out. I hope you guys enjoy the new setup, and until next time, in case I don't see you, go watch some movies and go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.